So this second one basically is finishing a sentence that you have started. There is also a finishing type of exercise, which is not finishing a sentence, but finishing a story. It's basically the same. The difference is that in this case, you don't really have a sentence, but you start a story, and in this story, you already have some context. So you give some context to the people who are filling your questionnaire. So the example that you can see on the slides is that Mercedes was a very nice person. He had a big family. He was working as a businessman. At work, he usually, and it's your task to finish the story. So it is quite clear that what you are interested in is Mercedes, and probably the brand or the company. And what we are interested in is that what does he usually look like? How does he usually act? So what we are interested in is Mercedes and his behavior at work. So basically how he or she treats how he treats employees. The last example is a thematic perception test, which is also quite interesting, I think, and it could give you very good results. And in this case, pictures are shown to people or to the respondents, and without any other comments, when the picture is shown, the respondents have to tell a story about the picture. Nothing is told to them, they just get a picture and the story is being told about the picture. And everyone is of course creating their own story. So at the beginning, it's impossible to know what other people would say. It's impossible to know what other people would think of the picture. So if you go to slide number 11, we have a picture there. And on the picture, you can see two women, you can see a man and a horse and a field. Well, I have just told you what I can see, but if I wanted to tell you a story with this picture, probably my story would sound like this. We can see a man who is working hard in the fields in order to provide for his family. There is the mother on the right side of the picture, and she's probably expecting another baby, and she is waiting outside for her husband to finish. And we have a young woman basically almost as in the center of the picture, and this young woman, I think, is the daughter of these two people, the father and the mother. And this young daughter or younger daughter might be at school, or she's studying to become a white-collar worker. But this is just one version of the story. You can have your own versions, and this is basically the concept of this thematic perception test. This was just my version, but maybe you see it in a different way. If you move on, you can see that based on the possible answers, we also have this speech bubble type of questions. And this is quite similar to the previously mentioned ones, because here you see a picture, and usually two or more people are talking to each other in the picture, and one of them says something, but the other speech bubble is empty. So your task is to fill in that other speech bubble, to somehow complete the story, somehow complete what's happening in the picture. Right now, what you can see is one person says to the other, what do you think it would be like to live here? And at the same time, they are looking at a huge city. And the other person, or the other person's speech bubble is completely empty. So it's basically your task to fill in that speech bubble. And then what would you say? So if you are a city person, you would say, yeah, it would be great to live here. There are so many possibilities, so many opportunities for work. But on the other hand, if you love the outskirts of town, if you like villages, if you like small cities or small towns, then you would say, oh, well, yeah, there are many opportunities. But on the other hand, there is a huge smog, there is air pollution, you cannot go outside to the garden, you don't have time to do anything else, just work. So this might be another answer that you have. And in this case, you already feel that, okay, but the test was about, or the question was about, how you feel towards living in a city or living in a village. Let's move on to question types based on the technique of the question. Well, here we have many different types. the first one we have to talk about is the fixed alternative questions. Well, in the fixed alternative questions, you have a question, and then you already know what answers you are expecting. So let's say if I ask you, do you think this questionnaire is useful? Of course, this is a yes/no question, so you would have to answer like yes or no, or a maybe. But let's say if I ask you a question like, out of the following items, which one do you like the most? And I give you some options like beer, wine, champagne, or whiskey, and then you would have to choose. This is also a fixed alternative. And it's up to you basically whether you do it like fixed alternative 1, so that they will be able to choose just one of these, or you can have a multiple choice question, which is a different type, where out of these 4 or 5, or no matter how many you provide, they will be able to choose more than just one. So this is called that is called the multiple choice. But if they are allowed to choose only once, it means it's a fixed alternative. Okay, you can also have scale questions, which are selective questions, and in this case, you ask people to rate what you are interested in. Let's say I'm interested in how much do you like our service from 1 to 5, and 1 means that I don't like at all. 5 means I really like it. So between 1 to 5, you will have to rate it. And the most commonly used rates for this is 1 to 5 or 1 to 7, because if it's 1 to 5 or 1 to 7, in the middle they have 3 or they have 4. So it means that they can also choose something in between, in the middle, which is like neutral, or which is in the middle, which is like an average score. But if you choose a scale from 1 to 4, then you don't give them the option to choose the middle, because if they say 3, then it's more positive. If they say 2, it's more negative. So once again, it depends on you, it depends on your aim of your research, which you are going to choose. A scale which is 1 to 5, so that they have a middle, or a scale which is 1 to 4, which doesn't have a middle, so they will have to decide which one they are probably positive or a little bit more negative towards. Okay, you can also choose ranking types of questions. So if you would like to compare different brands, for example, it's a perfect opportunity to know what people think of the brands. So you give them certain types and certain different brands, and what they would have to do is to rank them according to which one they like the most or which one they would use the most. This is also up to you how you make them rank it. So if they rank it first, probably you can say that then it means that they are the most satisfied with it. If they rank it at the last place, they are the least satisfied with it. Okay, you can also categorize question types based on completion, so how people can complete that question. Here you have once again different methods. You have underlining, so if it's not an online questionnaire where they have to just tick, you can underline it. So basically they can choose, or they can circle it, so this is also a good method how they can choose, or mark it with an X, where they put an X next to the answer. Or if it's an open-ended question, they can also write their own answers in their own words. Okay, and then whatever type of questions you have, whichever types you feel that it fits your questions and research aims the most, basically it doesn't matter. What matters at this point is that you have to make sure that your respondents know that they only participate in this research because they want to. If they don't feel like participating, you cannot force them. But if they participate, it means that they agree to volunteering their answers. And on the other hand, you have to make sure that they know that these questions and their answers are anonymous, so they are protected. What you have to make sure is you always protect your respondents. It means that you never give any personal data to anyone else. Whenever you're writing your research thesis, you always protect your respondents. This is in case of questionnaire, it's easy. In case of qualitative research interviews, it's very hard to say that, yeah, can I record a conversation, but it's anonymous. So it's very hard to say, but in case of questionnaires, it's a little bit easier, and tell them that you will only use their results for the sake of this research, and you will never provide these answers to anyone else. It's okay, because in questionnaires you normally don't ask for questions, but still some people, are very suspicious, and maybe they would feel that, yes, okay, they didn't give any names, but you had their IP address and so on. So it might happen that they are not so willing to give information for you. Well, they have the right to say no, so don't force them too much. If they don't want, it's okay, because otherwise if you force them, they might not give you good answers, or answers that are actually good, answers that are right or correct or are reality. Okay, so these were all the question types that you can use in a questionnaire, and I think it might seem a lot at first, like, okay, there are lots of types, but on the other hand, most of these question types are usually used intuitively. So if you have your research aim, if you have your research questions, I think you already have a logical sequence of how you are going to do your thesis, or how you're going to do your research. So trust you, trust your abilities that you will be able to do it. If you need any kind of help regarding the sequence of questions, I would also be happy to help. But the best way to test it, give the questionnaire to people who are not dealing with the same topic. And they might feel that, okay, this is a good question, but how do you get to that one? So they don't feel a logical connection between questions. So I think the best way is to giving it to people who don't know anything about your topic, or you haven't been researching it for a long time. You can also send it to me. I'm happy to look at the questionnaires and the different logics that you have. And before you start the questionnaire, the real asking of people to fill in your questionnaire, I think it is worth it to ask some people, 2, 3, 4 people, to have a pilot. And they can fill in your questionnaire, they can give you feedback, what was not so clear, what was clear, what was good, what they would change. So I think it is worth to have this pilot, because in the pilot they can give you some very good feedback on what they don't understand, or what is the strongest part maybe of the questionnaire. Okay, so guys, thank you for being here. Goodbye, guys.